In today's episode of Expanded Minds, Gateway to Freedom, Nancy and Aileen talk about government, abuse of power, secrecy. We also talk about aliens, alien technology, Nikola Tesla, vibrations, and we sum it all up to remember and to realize that no matter what we perceive is going on outside of us, the power to create and to manifest and live the life we want to live is always within ourselves.
Welcome to Expansive Minds podcast, Gateway to Freedom, a podcast where two friends, Aileen and Nancy, explore and expand beyond what they think they know in order to live a life of freedom. Thank you for joining us, and away we go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. And we are here back from your vacation, which wasn't a vacation, more like working vacation.
A magical vacation working thing.
And isn't the dream job the fun job? So then you don't even distinguish it as work. It's more play.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I had a great time.
All right, so we set the intention, and as usual, we don't know what we're going to talk about. It will unfold perfectly. All right, so take a nice deep breath into the belly. We are grounded. We are channels of love and light, and we are here to explore topics and ask that the manner in which we speak, the words that come out of our mouth, the energy we project is of service to all and brings us all joy and love. So it is. All right.
That's great.
Where are we going?
Well, okay. So you sent me that movie to watch.
Yes. So let me,
did.
So let me explain.
Yeah.
Let me explain.
There's an explanation. Okay.
Yes, because
I mean, I thought it was good.
yeah, I mean, I'm not. This is still okay. This
All
is.
right, so tell them.
I want to explain because this is a little out of my comfort zone. So yes, this is me trying to justify how I ended up where I ended up, and I need to make.
Why
peace.
you sent that to me?
Why I sent it to you? But it's. I
Yeah.
think we should be able to move into a space where this stuff isn't like
Absolutely.
and so that's where what I'm working on.
Yes.
So I was watching one of my favorite guys, Michael Sandler. He's so cute. Every time he has a guest on, he'll be like, woohoo! And so I was watching Michael Sandler, and he had on a gentleman that I had not heard of, Dr. Stephen Greer.
Oh, you had not heard of him
I had not heard
before.
of Dr. Greer.
Oh, okay.
So it turns out this guy is almost like an alien ambassador. He is
Right. So you didn't see Fifth Encounters?
No.
Oh.
He's a,
okay.
well, what I ended up getting there.
right.
He's a UFO expert who has been contracted and commissioned by the DOD and the government and has briefed presidents and CIA on alien encounters. And at first I was kind of like, all right, I was getting ready to swipe, but the message was gorgeous. He started talking about Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which I had never heard of. 5.
Yep.
So the first kind is when people have sightings of aliens. Close Encounter of the second kind is like when there's evidence, maybe crop circles. Close Encounters of the third kind is like almost exactly like the movie. He said the movie, the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Spielberg, is ridiculously accurate because Spielberg had access to some of the government records of Roswell. And so it's surprisingly accurate. So that's when you have the interactions. And Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind is like, say you ended up going up to your spaceship. I can't believe we're talking about this.
You're doing good. You're doing good. Yes.
And Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind is a term that Dr. Greer, is coined, which is almost ambassador-ish, calling the aliens to you. And so what this guy does, and I was talking to Carolyn about it, he's running something in Arizona, September 17th, where he's doing one of his things. I'm like, Carolyn, let's go. And she'll be like, oh, we don't know if we're ready for this yet. But they do, what they do is group prayer. group meditation,
Yeah.
group, like Cryon says, blasts of compassion and love. And then they intentionally send that up past the planet, into the solar system, into the galaxy, into the multiverse, the universes, whatever, saying to whatever higher frequency energies, see, we are loving beings. We do want to work with you and have a relationship with you. So as I was watching him talk about Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, loving the message, which was basically love and light, but blasting that past our planet, I looked up, I saw the movie.
Yep.
And I'm watching
The one that you sent
Close.
to me.
Well, so first I saw Oh,
then you
He
saw
has
the
a little
fifth-
documentary on Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So I
so you watched
started
that.
watching Close Encounters of
Okay.
the Fifth Kind, and there were interviews with Joe Rogan, and Steven Tyler was in an interview. I love Aerosmith. We're Boston gals, we love Aerosmith. And Steven Tyler was talking about, he's like, the interviewer asked him something, and he said, you have to watch Unacknowledged. And the interviewer said, blah, 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 and he said, you need to watch Unacknowledged. And the interviewer said, blah, 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 and he said, watch Unacknowledged. So I said, okay, well, Steven said to watch Unacknowledged. So I looked it up. It's on YouTube. It's easy to find.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and then I went, holy cow, and I sent it to Aileen. So what did you think? And the
Yeah.
message, and what do you... Where
are we going to go with all that?
Yeah, because I've been babbling now. Go ahead and go.
Well, so there's so much packed into Unacknowledged, which you sent to me that you can see on YouTube. So you can probably just Google Unacknowledged if people want to see it. And they bring up lots of really great points that encompass so much.
And the basic premise is...
Well, the premise is that I think in Unacknowledged is more data revealing paperwork, documents that, were censored, but enough information in them, or that were, released for public information of presidents, people in government official positions who are no longer, I don't know if anyone currently actively was in a public position, government position that was in that. But saying...
Probably not. 'Cause
Right,
they
they're
would
saying
probably
we have
not be
this
allowed.
information, we can talk about this, we've seen this, I saw this
With
definitely
respect
happened.
to
aliens and landing here on the planet, on planet Earth. And so they were talking about, this is what we found, this is what I've seen, this is what's been documented, this
And
is
these are
where the...
pilots, generals, military people,
Right,
government
right.
officials.
Right, for not only, a lot from the United States, but from other countries as well.
Oh yeah, they did.
And then the documentary takes it to Nikola Tesla, talks about energy, talks about, looking at the physics, the science of how potentially these crafts, flying saucers, how these crafts are able to function. And
He was close.
Yeah.
He figured it out, and then they destroyed his data.
right, according to the documentary, yes.
According to the document.
And so they're matching in the documentary, they're matching Tesla's work to what they say that has been found on alien crafts. And so there's the story coming from the documentary that even Hitler had access to, if you remember in the footage that they were showing a saucer,
And the German
being
footage.
able to, the German, Reich was being able to have these hovercrafts, shall we
Yes.
say, right?
Yeah.
So they were showing hovercrafts, and that hovercrafts do exist. They've existed for a very long time, because if you're talking about in this footage, it's, had it been the early 40s. And so there's a sense that from this documentary, alien crafts have been here, governments have access to the crashed crafts, and they have taken the technology from them and
Reverse
worked with them.
engineering. They could be reverse engineered.
And they are, yes, to
If-
then be
if
able
you
to
have-
function. And so, right. And so then I think the two things that come towards the end of the documentary are, spoiler alert, are that we have access. There's frustration from the people in the documentary that we have had access to technology that can give power and energy to the entire human existence, and that we would be on, really honestly, on equal footing, so that everyone would have food and a place to live and fresh water, and there would not be a hierarchy of power and resources. And then the other piece towards the end was this belief that it's possible that the United States or someone else could create a false-looking alien attack that then would bring us together on the globe to then fight against the aliens. Yeah, right. And so there was a talk about how some of these crafts have been created already, and there's a guess like, don't be surprised if it looks like we're being invaded by aliens from other planets, but it's not true.
Yeah.
So I think the documentary brings up a lot of great information. What can be scary and feel unsafe to a lot of people if they see that is the sense that, oh, the president doesn't know what's going on. Like, and having myself grown up in a world that was very much involved in government and secret government, that is absolutely true. I did not feel unsafe because I've known that my entire life from childhood.
Right. And
so, but for other people, it can feel really weird and strange and say, how can, is it true? Does this information exist? And if it does, how can these people not know about it? Why is it being kept secret from the major people who run the defense?
Right. So it's being kept secret even from the president.
Right,
that was one of the things.
Was the thing came up. Yeah.
That the president and the CIA director went to this guy, Stephen Greer, and said, how come we don't know about this? And that there's an incredible amount of funding, taxpayer dollars, going to this, what do you call it, black projects or
Right.
But what I took away, and that was a gorgeous
how was it for
summary.
you? Yeah.
Well, so I've always, as I've always believed that there are other life forms because from a mathematical,
how can there not be?
How can there not be? It's statistically impossible not to be. And that if they exist, they can't travel the speed of light. They're interdimensional, or they're bending portals. But I thought it was the government set more to protect. We don't want mass hysteria. We don't want mass panic. So I've always been in my happy little world, like, okay, yeah, they're there, but no reason to freak out. But what a point the documentary brought to my attention that I had not acknowledged was a suppression of data for the sole purpose of keeping this technology away, because if it is released, then the less than 1% of the elites will no longer have oil and energy crisis to hang over our head. Because if this stuff comes out, then the 1% of the elite rich aren't going to have like you said, the mass lion's share. So I had not realized that it was a suppression to keep technology away from us. That was disheartening to me.
Yes, and not only finances, but also remember it's power, right? We've talked before in our audio podcasts about the potential that many religions are about power, having power over, right? If you have power, then perhaps you can feel safe. You don't understand the collaboration, and so people will have power over other people by keeping them oppressed, right? And there's a hierarchy there that for some reason we all contribute to think that that's the way that it works best, and it's not the way that it works best. No. And people freak out. People get really concerned about, but don't dismantle our socioeconomic story.
I think
because what will happen
dismantled.
If? Right, what will happen if? And we do have to go a little at a time. What I say to people is, imagine we're all on a boat, and because I take the boat all the time in Nantucket, I can imagine this really easily. But if everybody ran to one side, it would tip. So it does have to be a safe progress in that direction,
Right.
When are we going to get there? I don't know. Why do we still have the stories that we have? I mean, I'm 58. Why do I keep having to see this level of racism? I mean, I own so many movies that speak to that. Carbon Copy was a movie with Denzel Washington when he first came out, you know.
Love Denzel.
It's a great movie, and it's really to the point, you know. It came out in the 70s, I think, maybe early, somewhere around there. And then I'm like, well, okay, then I have Bulworth, the movie. Then I own Crash. Then I own all these movies that are saying the same thing over and over again. So it's like, how do we all participate in changing that? So there's victim energy that gets perpetuated.
Right.
There's power over energy. It's like, when are we going to believe it? And so to your point, when the society does this thing, whatever this is, right, that we do, into collaboration, synergy, all that, then it will be easy. Then everyone will be talking about aliens and, you know.
Yes. And when you were speaking of movies, you reminded me of, I don't know which now, I think it was Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind.
Yeah.
There was an interview with Ben Affleck.
Oh, okay.
And he was saying he believes the CIA is in Hollywood. He believes a lot of these producers, directors are CIA people.
Oh, well, it
And
came
the
up
premise,
in
did it come up in Unacknowledged too?
Just talking about where they're located to control
So with
the media, but
Hollywood, so with Hollywood, and the media is totally in on it, but with Hollywood, this premise of this documentary is that's how the powers that be are manipulating us. They're putting these, if you look at alien movies in Hollywood, the aliens are usually attacking and eating us or whatever horrible thing the aliens are doing, which is counterintuitive if these beings are that intelligent that they can bend time or find these wormholes or portals and get to us. They have enough technology that they could probably blow us away, and they're not. They're trying to make contact. They're trying to keep us from blowing ourselves up. But the point I took away from that was, wow, Hollywood has a lot of power. And if you look at the themes of the stuff they're putting in to incite and aggravate, not saying that some of the stuff with the racism doesn't exist, but I thought it reminded me of, look at the messaging they're putting in about aliens.
Oh, absolutely. Well, my children, my wonderful children, lived a very different life than many other children in their generation. My children were not allowed to watch television.
Cool.
Because I did not want them to be raised with this information.
Right.
It's like, who's writing these cartoons?
Right.
Who's writing this script?
Perfect.
Whose voice are they hearing? What images are they hearing? And so I was like, no, you don't get to watch TV.
That's awesome.
That was important.
Yeah.
To your point.
Yeah.
I remember one of the most exciting, and I might have talked about this in an audio podcast, one of my most exciting moments is trying to teach my young daughter about marketing and how they're like, oh, they're just trying to get you to buy their stuff. So this is when they were very little, before I was like, no TV for you. So she was probably 4 years old, and a commercial came on, and someone was like, it was for cough medicine, cough drops, and someone's coughing, and there's like a fake feather coming out. And she looked at me and she said, I don't believe that. He's not really coughing. He doesn't really have a cold. They're just trying to get you to buy that.
Wow.
And I was like, yes.
Well done, girl.
Yes.
Well
and
done,
then again,
girl.
shortly after that, I was like, well, yes, apparently I'm not even going to put you guys through that, so no TV.
Yeah. Wow. That's really a good thing. Hard to do these days with cell phones and things so readily.
Oh, sure. The technology now is just blown away for good or for bad, however you want to say that.
But I think it's simply having that in the back of your mind, in everybody's mind, adults, in whatever, that when you see something, you can question it. Like, and also, who's the generator of it? Who's the generator of this
Who's
content?
the generator of study, scientific studies? Who's the
gosh.
generator of advertisements?
Clinical trials, don't get me going after years in pharma. People say, oh, this drug, look, this clinical trial says it's safe. Yeah, who funded the clinical trial?
Exactly.
You have to read the peer-reviewed stuff, or you have to read the studies that are done outside of the pharmas for that kind of
Right. It's
information.
people are very, very busy and they're trying to survive. And that's, of course, part of the plan, right?
Yeah,
If we're all trying to survive, then we don't have time to pay attention.
that's excellent point. Excellent point. Well, the saving grace that I took out of these documentaries from Dr. Stephen Greer was we can do something.
Yeah, I was very excited about that, honestly.
Yes, the
when
takeaway message was
the technology is there and
last
exists.
love and compassion to everything and everyone, which sounds so fluffy, but it's something we've always believed
Right.
and promote. But to hear scientists and soldiers and doctors say, what's the solution? Elevate your consciousness.
Absolutely. And also what I took away was, in physics, matter follows energy, so the vibration. So I loved when they were talking about particular some of Tesla's work, which I'm going to look into a little bit more. I dropped a bunch of my physics studies for a little bit there.
I
but
poke around in his space for a little bit,
yeah.
but you're right. He's worth another.
Totally, because this piece around, this exists, we can already do this, and why are we not doing it? I felt very centered. I felt like really clear because, again, matter follows energy. So now that my confidence is aligned, that the technology exists, we are capable of doing it in a good and safe way, then that's my North Star. That's my focus.
Yes.
I just hold that to be true. A reminder about how manifestation or how matter follows energy, all of that, how that works. I had a good friend who used to do a kind of martial arts, and he was someone who could, do
the boards.
go through the boards. So he and I were talking, and I was like, "What's that like for you? What is that? Tell me a little bit about that." And so he went through 10 boards, and he said, "This is how you have to do it, though. Your intention is to see your hand on the other side, because if you focus on the obstacle, if you focus on the wood, then you're going to hit that wood. I mean, that's going to be the thing, and you're going to stop because your brain's going to say, my hand can't go through that wood. However, if your energy and your focus is that your hand is on the other side of the wood, then it will be there."
And the quantum physics principle, I suppose, would apply to that, with quantum physics saying whatever you give your attention to then collapses into matter. So if you're giving your attention to the board, you're strengthening it, collapsing it into matter. Whereas if you're giving the attention to the space behind the board and you're just getting to that space, then from a quantum physics perspective, that makes sense as well.
So I felt very optimistic after that movie, the documentary, because again, for me, all the other stuff, I was like, yes, government has no idea what they're doing.
See, you knew
Nobody
that.
knew,
I didn't know.
It's all like,
Coming
we're just
from
trying
a
to make it.
CIA family background, you knew that. I did not know that this was being suppressed
It's
from a
complete
technology
scam.
perspective.
Government is a complete scam. I mean, I say that in the most
we want this
loving,
technology. And
realistic.
in Stephen Greer, when he was on Michael Sandler, he was saying people who are close, his next documentary is going to be more specifically about the technology. He's trying to collect people who
Let's just get there.
who know, who have had breakthroughs. He said if you do it in secret and they find out, he said, I know of people who were assassinated and laboratories blown up. He said there have been threats on my life. And he said, so my next documentary is I want to call out the technology people, provide them safety and infrastructure that they can continue their work so we could bring these advanced technologies to humanity.
Right. And I think a lot of us on some level know that it exists already, intuitively knew that it existed and are aware of it, aware of what we might call the new earth. We're aware of like this vibration, this intention, the observer effect, all of that you're talking about does exist. We are accountable and responsible to that. I mean, in part when the pandemic, COVID and all that sort of stuff came up, part of me started thinking about all the people that watch The Walking Dead. I was like, are we creating that? Like, hey guys, what are we creating?
Does art imitate life? Is life imitating
Right. Can we create something different? Can we create like everybody gets clean water? Can we create that everybody gets, just a thought, Can we? Well, I often say too in energy medicine, like when people had asked me, it's been 27 years, and especially in the beginning, people were like, what are you doing? And it was people mostly desperate, like I only have 6 months to live. Someone told me I should come see you. And so people say, well, how do I explain what you do? And sometimes I say, if this country allowed it, I would be a doctor of energy medicine.
Yes.
I'm a country community doctor. I
Yes.
love my communities that I live in, and I care for them from,
Yes.
pre-birth to dying.
Yes.
And I love it.
Yeah.
But I can't be a doctor of energy medicine because we won't allow it. And guess
Right.
what? If I'm just sitting with you for an hour, and even at that, I probably don't have to sit with you an hour. We can do it distance. If I'm just sitting with you for an hour, and I have basically, a work table, a body work table, a massage table, and clean white sheets, and that's all I need. Boy, think of if that's all you needed, or just like intention. If that's all you needed, what would happen to all these industries?
Right.
Who are like,
right.
we're
Surgical
invested.
instruments, hospital structures,
right.
pharmaceuticals, that
Right.
kind of stuff.
And not to say that isn't important as we move our way to,
Yes.
the opening, as we move our way there,
Yes.
and to be grateful for emergency,
Yes, for
that is
Western
so
medicine.
important.
Absolutely. I
Right.
appreciate that.
And yet we look at, is it jobs, sustainability, and stability to keep people sick?
Right.
And how do we do it? And so often, I'll get people and again, Western medicine is wonderful and they're great, and I appreciate it. And yet there's a certain belief system that they have, and so, young girl will come to me and doctors, nobody can figure anything out, and I'll just kind of work on it for a second. I'll say, okay, let's talk about this thing in your life. And then all of a sudden this whole thing comes out.
Right.
And beep, that's
Yeah.
it. We'll do a little stuff here. Here's a little thing you can do. And then, a week later, she's like, I haven't had that hurt stomach anymore. I'm like,
Yes,
right on.
because you're
Meanwhile,
getting
there's
to
like
the
10
source.
pills they wanted to give her, and
Yes, because you're going to the source of the issue.
that's what energy is so great for.
Right, because the symptoms she's presenting are manifestations, but they are not the problem. So you hit it at the source.
Right.
We were speaking, as Gabby and Brian were setting up lights, about that. I wanted to bring, because it came up in a previous podcast, and I wanted to bring
Yeah.
it back into light. We were talking about emotion. And as I'm Reiki, but as energy workers and even just counseling our friends and family and children, we want to acknowledge emotion, but we don't want to wallow it. And we spoke of this in a previous podcast, where how long do you stew? Because like you were saying, in the 80s, you were supposed to feel your emotions.
Right.
But if we're practicing quantum physics, if you feel your emotions too much, you're not going to be pleased with the manifestation. Right. So you had a great perspective. And then if you could share it with me. And then Gabriella Bella, how are we doing on time?
Oh, 25.
We're at 25.
Or maybe a little under 25.
Under 25.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah. So
could you
here's-
share that
Yes.
concept you were sharing with me?
Yeah. And
with respect
this
to
is,
emotions.
I wish I could remember the book, so I feel bad that I can't
it'll come
acknowledge
up.
the author that shared this. That really hit me. It struck me. It was in cartoon form. It was great. It was before graphic novels and everything. But it was this great exercise that I often use with people. So I'll just kind of say it now. So I say to people, imagine that you're walking into a room. Like if it's a child, I'll say like a classroom, because that's typically where stuff goes down. I'll say, imagine that you're walking into a room and you see two people talking, and you think they're making fun of you. You think they're saying something bad about you. How would you feel? Right? And then people always say, oh, it feels like this. And I say, okay, boop, back up, erase it. Then walk into that same room, see two people talking, think that they're saying positive things about you. Maybe they're creating a surprise for you, or they have a gift that they want to give you. How does that feel in your body? And you sit and feel how that feels. And then it's like, okay, reverse, erase it. I said, now walk into a room, you see two people talking, the same two people, and you think to yourself, I don't know what they're talking about, it has nothing to do with me. Then you go sit down, how does that feel? So in each of those, it's the thought, it's the perception, it's the choosing of what we want to think is occurring that then gives this visceral, this emotion in our body, right? And so the goal is to be neutral.
Right. So instead of, and what I was doing, how long do I let this person spin? in the emotion, instead of focusing on the emotion, I focus on encouraging them to shift their thoughts.
Right. Exactly.
Because the thoughts are what generated the emotion.
It's the perception of what you
Interesting.
think. And even if someone is doing something, there's lots of really cool stuff we've done to try to detach from taking things personally, right? Like sometimes when our children are little and somebody bullies them and we're like, well, that person might be having a hard time, you don't know, it's not about you. And that's still really hard because the person is sometimes just
Still
behaving poorly
Yeah.
towards you or your children. So there's all this incredible dance of how we handle it. And if in our minds, we use tools, thought strategies like, whose problem is it? It's not my problem. I've spoken before about, for me, in the way my brain works, and I was very lucky that I have a very logical brain. So in elementary school, the kids in my class started calling me frog legs. I was very tall, I was thin, and I did like to jump a lot, quite frankly. But so to that point, but however, in my brain, I was like, I don't look like a frog, like I'm not green. My legs really don't look like frog legs. So there's this level of credibility. What's the credibility? What credibility do you give when someone says something either negative to you or about their own life sometimes?
Yes.
And it can be difficult when we're the observer and we're outside of it. So I think we want to be very careful and understand people who are having depression. It can be a chemistry that needs a little bit more work. Not to say it can't shift. I mean, we got this great neuroplasticity thing, right? We've got that amazing doctor who is a neurosurgeon herself. She had a coma. She went into a coma, and within her coma, she was able to work on her own brain and brought herself out.
I read that after my mom had her stroke. I read that.
Yeah,
that
it's
one
like,
too,
whoa. So that's
should
like
hit
a
that one in a
quadruple
podcast, too.
whammy of
Yeah.
amazingness,
Yeah.
Like she
Yeah.
could be lucid within her own consciousness. She happened to have the skills. But with that said, you can even do telepathy and bring skills in from somebody else. You can have a communication on that level with somebody else and receive the knowledge to do it. You don't have to just have it within this
Holy cow, we're
ego
going
framework.
woo!
But
We're all,
that's sort of part of it. So again, when you see a documentary like you saw, and that we're talking about, and it seems scary and weird and hard, remember, we're still, even talking about aliens, you still don't have to limit yourself. So whereas the Encounters of the Fifth Kind is like, yes, they're putting out vibes and they're like, we're drawing aliens to us, Are they not? Well, who cares? That's the other thing I say, like, it's all just energy.
Right.
It's all just energy. And to participate in energy in a constantly open way, that we don't know what we don't know, and there's so much more to know, so much more to be revealed.
Right.
Can we live in the mystery and the excitement and the thrill of wanting to just know more in a really beautiful, happy, curious way?
And I think that is a perfect wrap up. I think you nailed it right there.
Yeah, right?
All right. And so until next time, more to be revealed.
Thank you for joining us on Expansive Minds podcast, Gateway to Freedom. Until next time, more to be revealed.